I'm Michael Turner, and this is the story I never thought I would share with anyone, not even with the people closest to me, because it begins with the kind of sentence that cuts a father in half. You don't deserve to know her name. That's what my daughter, Emily Turner, told me the day I asked, carefully, gently, hopefully, what my newborn granddaughter was called. I didn't even know she had given birth until I saw a picture online, posted by someone who wasn't even family. My own daughter held a tiny infant in her arms, wrapped in a soft cream blanket, eyes half closed, lips curled like she was tasting her first breath. And I had no idea who she was, where she was born, what she was called, or why my daughter felt I deserved none of it. But maybe you'll understand when I start from the beginning, long before the day she shut the door in my face. I wasn't always the man my daughter hated. For most of her childhood, I believed I was what a father should be, responsible, present, and determined that my family never lacked anything. I worked as an aviation mechanic for a regional airline, often long hours. Emily, from the moment she was old enough to speak, used to wait for me at the window. I can still see her small hands pressed against the glass, sunlight turning her brown hair almost golden. She would run to me, yelling, "Daddy," like I was returning from war. Her mother, Alice, my ex-wife now, was gentler than I deserved. She reminded me to slow down, to listen more, to rest when I could. Back then, our home felt warm, filled with the smells of her cooking, Emily's drawings taped on every wall, and small laughter echoing between rooms. But when Emily turned 13, everything changed. It started with small things. She grew quieter, more secretive, and easily upset. I thought it was normal teenage storminess. I brushed it off because work was getting harder. The company was downsizing, and every shift felt like I was fighting to keep my job. I didn't notice Emily pulling away. I didn't see the cracks forming in our family. Then one night, she was late coming home from a friend's birthday party. I called, no answer. I called again, nothing. My worry turned into anger. Anger the way a father feels it, when fear gets tangled up in pride. She walked in at 11:45 p.m., makeup smudged, smelling faintly of cigarette smoke. I yelled. She yelled back. Alice tried to calm us, but we were both too far gone. That night became a pattern. Every disagreement turned into a battlefield, and even though she was growing, she still looked like my little girl when she cried. But I stood my ground, convinced that strictness equaled protection. By the time she was 17, she barely spoke to me except through sarcasm or silence. I blamed her mother for being too lenient. I blamed society. I blamed the new friends she hung around. I blamed everything except myself. And then, one day, Alice walked into the living room and said she was leaving. She said, "Michael, I can't do this anymore. There's no space for anyone's feelings in this house except your own." 2 months later, the divorce was finalized. Emily chose to live with her mother, and I didn't fight it because by then, the distance between us could have swallowed an ocean. But I still believed the bond would return someday. I believed she would come home for holidays. I believed she would call. I believed fatherhood was a rope that never snapped completely. I was wrong. 1 year after the divorce, I saw pictures online, Emily at her high school graduation. I hadn't been invited. She hadn't even told me she was graduating early. It hurt, deeply, but I kept telling myself, she just needs time. Then came the real blow. At 19, she got pregnant, but I didn't learn that from her either. I learned it when I ran into an old family friend who casually mentioned her cute baby bump. My chest felt like it caved in. I drove to Alice's house immediately, heart beating wildly, palms sweating on the steering wheel. Emily answered the door wearing an oversized sweater, her stomach unmistakably rounded. She froze. I froze. Neither of us breathed. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked quietly. She didn't say a word. She just stared at me until her mother stepped in and said gently, "Michael, it wasn't the right time." Not the right time? For a father to know his daughter was carrying life inside her. I walked back to my car in a fog, sat there, and cried harder than I had in years. The months that followed were a blur of me trying to reconnect. Calls unanswered, texts left on read, messages delivered but never replied to. I drove 2 hours to visit her once, only to be told, "She's resting. Please come another day." But another day never came. Then one night, while browsing social media, I saw a photo. Emily holding a newborn, smiling. The caption said, "Welcome to the world, little angel." My own granddaughter. And I learned her existence through a stranger's online share. I didn't sleep that night. I paced. I talked to myself. I questioned every decision I'd ever made as a father. At sunrise, I drove to their house. When Emily opened the door, her hair was messy, her eyes tired, but she looked beautiful, glowing with the softness motherhood had given her. I said, trembling, "And what's her name?" Her face changed instantly. The warmth vanished. Her voice sharp as broken glass, she said, "You don't deserve to know her name." I felt something crumble inside me, a permanent breaking, the kind that rearranges a man's soul. "Why would you say that?" I whispered. "You weren't there for me," she said. "Not when I was pregnant, not when I was scared, not when I needed you." I tried. "No," she cut in. "You tried when it was convenient for you. You tried when you had nothing else to do. But when I was growing up, when Mom cried every night, when I begged you to just listen, you didn't try then." Her words sliced cleanly. I had no defense, because deep down, I knew she was right. She stepped back and closed the door slowly, almost gently, and I was left standing on the porch like a ghost from a past she wanted to forget. That night, I made a decision. I wasn't going to disappear. I wasn't going to demand forgiveness either. I was going to earn it. Not through words, but through something I had failed to give my whole life. Consistency. I started sending small gifts, not extravagant, just soft baby blankets, little onesies, hand-knitted booties. I wrote letters to Emily, even though she never responded. I left them in her mailbox. Letters about my regrets, about my love for her, about how I wanted to change. Months passed. Seasons changed. My granddaughter grew, but I still didn't know her name. But on my birthday, everything shifted. I was sitting alone on my couch when my phone buzzed. A message from Emily. It said, "We need to talk." I drove to her house immediately, heart pounding, mind racing with hope and fear. When she opened the door, she didn't smile, but she didn't look angry either. She said, "She's asleep." Come. For the first time since she pushed me away, she let me step into her world again. Her living room was filled with tiny toys, books, blankets. On the couch, a small stuffed rabbit sat waiting for small hands to hold it. Emily sat across from me and took a breath. "I'm not saying everything is forgiven," she began, "but I'm willing to talk. Not for you, for her." She nodded toward the baby monitor. And for the first time, I felt hope, a fragile, trembling, dangerous hope. Just as she was about to tell me her daughter's name, the monitor crackled and a soft cry echoed through the room. Emily stood and walked toward the nursery. I followed. When she lifted the baby from the crib, I saw her clearly for the first time. Dark curls, round cheeks, tiny fingers gripping her mother's shirt. Emily held her close and whispered, "This is your granddaughter." My eyes filled with tears. "Her name is—" And then she stopped, looking at me as if weighing whether I deserved what she was about to say. "Her name is Isabella Grace Turner," Emily finally said. The moment the name left her lips, something inside me softened, like a wound finally receiving air. Isabella, Grace, my granddaughter, a child I hadn't met, hadn't held, hadn't even known existed for months, but already loved more than reason allowed. She placed Isabella gently in my arms. For a second, I froze, afraid I would break her. She felt feather-light, fragile, impossibly warm. Her tiny fingers reached out and curled around my thumb. I swear the world stopped. The anger, the regrets, the years of silence, all of it washed away under the weight of that tiny grip. "I whispered, Isabella, I'm your grandpa." Emily watched me, not with forgiveness, not yet, but with something softer than before. A question, a hesitation, maybe even a beginning. Isabella blinked up at me. Her eyes were dark blue, the color of early morning sky before sunrise. Her breath came in tiny puffs, and she kept tightening and loosening her grip like she was testing the world. I felt myself fall in love instantly. Emily sat down beside me. She just ate, so she might fall asleep again. I nodded, unable to speak. My throat was thick with emotions I didn't have names for. After a few minutes, Emily said quietly, "I know you're trying, Dad." My heart stuttered. She continued, "But it's going to take time. A lot of time." "I understand," I said. "And I don't want you to just be a grandfather who comes and goes. If you want to be part of her life, you need to be consistent. No repeating. No excuses." I nodded again. "I won't disappear. Not again." She looked at me the way you look at someone you're not sure you can trust yet, but want to. Isabella yawned and fell asleep in my arms. Emily smiled, just a little, and for the first time in years, I saw a piece of the girl she used to be, the girl who once waited for me at the window. "Let me put her down," Emily said softly. I handed the baby back, reluctantly, feeling the loss the moment her warmth left my arms. Emily returned, and we sat in the living room. The silence wasn't hostile anymore. It was possible. She finally spoke. "When I told you that you didn't deserve to know her name, I meant it. I was angry. I was hurt. You weren't there all those years." "I know," I said. "But," she added, "you've been trying." "And I see that." I swallowed. "I'll keep trying." She looked down at her hands. "I don't need you to be perfect. I just need you to show up." We talked for hours. About her pregnancy. About the father, Oliver Hayes, who had abandoned her before Isabella was born. About the fear she had felt giving birth without her partner, without me, without anyone except her mother and her friend Clara. She cried. I cried. We rebuilt something piece by fragile piece. That night, when I finally left, Emily walked me to the door. She didn't hug me, but she didn't turn away either. "Dad," she said before I stepped outside. "Yes." "Do you want to come back tomorrow? Isabella naps around noon. You could, maybe, read to her." My heart slammed against my ribs. "Yes, of course. I'd love to." She nodded, and for the first time in years, the door closed softly, not slammed. The weeks that followed were slow healing. I visited every other day. I read to Isabella. I changed diapers under Emily's cautious supervision. I learned how to warm bottles, how to soothe her when she cried, how to hold her without feeling terrified she'd break. The bond between us grew. So did the one between me and Emily. One afternoon, while Emily washed bottles in the kitchen, I sat on the floor with Isabella lying on her stomach during tummy time. She lifted her head and looked directly at me, eyes wide, curious, trusting. I whispered, "You're going to grow up knowing you're loved." I swear it. Emily heard me. She leaned against the doorframe, her voice soft. "Thank you, Dad." And just like that, something healed that I hadn't even realized was still bleeding. Months passed. Isabella began cooing, then babbling. She started grabbing my glasses, drooling on my shirt, pulling my beard. I didn't mind any of it. Every moment felt like repayment for the years I'd missed. Emily let me babysit her for short periods. She called me for help. She asked for advice, sometimes reluctantly. Our relationship, once shattered, now stood on steady ground. Not perfect, but strong. One evening, as I rocked Isabella to sleep, Emily sat beside me and said, "You know, I think she really loves you." I smiled. "I love her more than she'll ever understand." Emily nodded. "I know. And I'm glad she has you." She placed her hand on mine, unexpected and warm. I didn't speak. I didn't need to. For the first time in more than a decade, my daughter trusted me. And that trust was the greatest gift she could have given me. After all the years of distance, silence, misunderstandings, and heartbreak, I finally had my family back. Not the same as before, not as perfect or simple, but real. A daughter who found her voice. A granddaughter who found her grandpa. A man who found the courage to change. I lost years, but I gained something stronger. A second chance, and I won't waste it. If you believe every relationship deserves a chance to heal, if you believe love can rebuild what time has broken, then share this story. Let others know that no matter how far apart families drift, hope is never lost. Sometimes all it takes is one step forward, one honest conversation, one moment of courage to change everything.